Today we're going to do the penny lab. Our guiding question is the density of pennies older than 1986 different than the pennies made after 1986? For our procedure, we're going to measure the mass of 20 pennies that are made before 1986 and 20 pennies that were made after. Then we're going to measure the volume using water displacement of those pennies from each set. And lastly, we're going to calculate the density using mass divided by volume. All right, so we are going to take the mass of our pennies. I'm going to take my weigh dish here, and I'm going to put it on the balance. Okay, it weighs about 2.1, but I'm going to go ahead and hit 0. So I've zeroed the balance with the weigh dish. That means that it's going to start with that being a mass of 0. I have my older pennies. These are pre-1986. So you can see there's a lot of oxidation on there. They're not very shiny. There's one that's still a tiny bit shiny versus my newer pennies. Let's see if I can show those. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take my older pennies, I'm going to put them on here, and we're going to record the mass of the 20 older pennies. So our pre-1986 total is 57.86. 57.86. And that, of course, is grams since we're measuring mass. Okay, 57.86 grams for our older pennies. I'm going to put the weigh dish back on. It says 0, but I'm going to go ahead and 0 it again anyways. And the mass of our newer pennies, our post-1986 shiny pennies, is going to be 49.93 grams. 49.93 grams for our newer pennies. All right, so to find the volume of these pennies, we're going to use water displacement. And so we're going to use our graduated cylinder filled with a certain amount of water that we record as our initial volume. So we're going to put water in here. The amount of water that we start with is irrelevant as long as we record, there's some bubbles in there, as long as we record the precise volume, all we're looking for is the difference. So it doesn't matter where we start. So I'm going to let you guys go ahead and read from the bottom of the meniscus. Let's see if we can. What would you say that volume is? Okay, I'm going to be able to read it a lot better because I can see it a lot better. So it is 48.2. 48.2, and that is in milliliters. 48.2 milliliters for our initial volume. I'm going to write V subscript I for initial volume. Okay, and let's go ahead and do our older pennies first. So I'm going to take my older pennies. Can you guys guess why I did the mass of these first and not the volume? Would having water stuck to them change their mass? That was a trick question. Yes, it would. All right. And now the water has gone up. So what is our final volume? Can we see it? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, let me read the final volume for you. The final volume is 55.2. 55.2. Okay, and also in milliliters, 55.2. Okay, let's go ahead and dump that out. I'm going to be careful not to dump the pennies down the drain, just the water. And let's fill this back up with a certain amount. Okay, I'm just making sure that it's going to cover the pennies. So we're going to do our new pennies. Okay, you guys can see what that might be. The volume, notice I'm getting down to eye level because you want to look straight ahead at it. If you look down or up, that's going to distort your reading. It is at 35, 36, 37. I would say 38.9 is our V1. 38.9 milliliters is our initial volume for the new pennies. Okay, so let's add these and see what their volume is. How much does it go up? All right, so our final volume of the new pennies is going to be, looks like 45. Let's read it carefully. It is actually 45.9, I would say. 45.9 milliliters for our final volume. All right, so please calculate the difference in the volume of the water for each set of pennies, and that is going to be the volume of your 20 pennies. And then I want you guys to take the mass of those 20 pennies, divide it by the volume of those 20 pennies, and you should find the density of them. Okay, do we need to do anything because I used 20 pennies for the density? I want you guys to think about that. Okay, and we'll come back and do our conclusion.